Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We have an unboxing today of a brand new product, the Dogs of War from Thin Red Line Games. This is a buddy unboxing, so this is not my copy. Nevertheless, we will be taking a look at it today. This is C3 Series, Module 2, the BAOR sector. That's the British Army of the Rhine. So this is a sort of grand tactical Cold War Gone Hot series of simulation games from Thin Red Line. I think the inheritors, where they're trying to go with this, I think, is to inherit the mantle from the old Central Front series from SPI, but I don't believe that the two systems are necessarily all that similar, which is a little bit unlike their other effort, the 1985 series. So let's open her up and see what we have. Now we have a typical Thin Red Line Games box, meaning that it's a blank back and the box bottom bulges out over the top just a little bit. My aesthetic sense rebels at that, but it's not like it's a big deal. And the box is not super squeaky, but we do have loose cards. So at some point, I think these were printed in Europe, I would imagine. So this is a card. My understanding is that this is a card-assisted game. I don't believe card-driven would be, I think that would be overstating it. And printed in Europe, as I imagine this was, it does appear that the cards have come loose from the little sleeve thing at some point in its journey. So let's just put these back. As you can see, we have what look like two different kinds of cards. We have a Warsaw Pact card and a NATO card, and it looks like these govern activations in some way in this series. So this is yet again another one of these games in this NATO versus Warsaw Pact topic that has really exploded again over the last couple of years, after spending a good part of the previous decades pretty dormant, because the Cold War did not in fact go hot. So at least it seemed like interest in this topic evaporated, but it's really blossomed again over the last couple of years. So looks like we got about a 52 card deck there. We have two 10-sided dice, pretty nice 10-sided dice actually, and a roll of baggies, which is not going to be adequate. Since I have them handy, I'm just going to check something here. Yes, the Thin Red Line box does completely fit a GMT counter tray. So let's see what the contents are. And I believe this is going to be a one-map game. We have the Dogs of War operational procedures. I think what that means is game-specific rules. And this is on that European-sized paper. I think it's A4, I think is what it's called. So it's a little bit oversized by North American standards, but looks like what we have here is game-specific rules, full color, really very nice, and on really thick paper too. This is only 8 pages, however. And then we have another booklet, which looks like it's about 24 pages? 36 pages. But again, on quite thick paper. And it's like a satin finish type of stock. And these are the scenarios. And it looks like there's quite a bit in the way of scenarios. Welcome to Braunschweig. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 scenarios, and then 2 campaigns. And presumably you'll be able to put these all together at the end as well. And then here is our series rules, which feels like another 36 pages. 28. The thickness of the paper is throwing me off. I'm usually pretty good at that. This looks like black and white, which I don't feel is an actual problem, but somebody will probably complain about it, our hobby being what it is. Relatively small print, doesn't look like a particularly light game. And we got some player aid cards. This is a display. Ground combat chart and a track to keep track of the DRMs. And then that's one-sided as expected. We've got order of battle cards. So this is always nice to have. Northern Front on the Warsaw Pact side. And British Army of the Rhine on the NATO side. Which in this case looks like it's British and Germans, West Germans. Here's the turn record track. It also tracks for command points. It looks like this tracks for 5 days. I'm not sure what this means. I think this might be the actual turn, and then this is the day. So sounds like there's quite a few turns here. We have electronic warfare engineer and air points for both NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Then we have booklets of charts and tables. Now, this is an interesting thing that Thidrenline does, and I'm a little surprised that we don't see this more often, actually, is to, instead of putting a player aid card together, have a player aid booklet. This looks like it's about 16 pages. Yeah, it's about right. 12 or 16 pages of all the essential charts and tables. Huge chart of different orders that you can give. Unit identification, and there's 2 identical ones here. This I don't like. So it's a landscape format, right? But then the back cover is just the same piece of art again. That's a missed opportunity. They could have put something on there. I don't know what it would have been, but they could have put something on there. All right, we got counters. We have a lot of counters, actually. We have a map. Let's look at the map. I always like to look at the counters last. Now, there are folks that dislike the art style here, and unlike most American print jobs, where it's kind of 8.5 by 11 panels, this is 10 8.5 by 11 panels, or roughly 8.5 by 11. I'm sure it's a metric because they're civilized folk up there. I, however, don't object to this map style. And the map stock that they used is sort of this satin finish, really, really, really nice stock, and the paper's quite thick too. And it really feels like this map will hold up fairly well. It's a different aspect ratio than we would get out of an American map. That's interesting. I think the map art style here, which again some people don't like, is trying to look like, or at least evoke the feel of the military maps of the period. And I think it's doing that. At least to me it does. People who were professionally immersed in the military maps of the period might have a different opinion, and I will defer to them, but I haven't heard any of those people actually complain. All right, so we have 6-7 counter sheets here. Okay, that's a lot. But they are 5/8 inch, what look like 5/8 inch counters. Again, I'm sure they're metric. And we have a lot of what look like markers. These are presumably refits, screening units, stuff for nukes. A lot of markers. These are probably manpower markers, I would think. Electronic warfare and a lurid sort of pinkish purple. Once again, more markers. It's interesting that there's 3 counter sheets of units here, which is still a lot, right? If this one map game and had 3 counter sheets, that's a quite beefy one map game. It has 3 counter sheets of units and then 4 additional counter sheets of markers. So obviously what we have here is Warsaw Pact, 12th Guards tank, 48th Guards, 48th mech, that kind of stuff. Here we have what looks like our West Germans, along with some, some higher level brigade units, markers of some kind. These units are battalions. And then here we have what looks like more West Germans and the British in very dark colors, actually. I don't know how well you're making this out on camera. But here's your British. Here's West Germans. Here's more what look like West Germans. Here's what look like Belgians, actually. And they're all quite dark colors. And they've elected to go with pretty much just red on the Warsaw Pact side. Then again, these might all be Soviet. I'm looking for it. I guess it's East Germans. And I'm not sure I'm seeing that. Unless one of these is East Germans, which is possible. Because these are slightly different. Hard to say. Anyway, so the counters, again, are 5/8 inch, roughly. And they have that sort of finish on them that Thin Red Line does, which I quite like, but I will tell you from my attempt at clipping 1985 Underiron Sky, they tend to clip fairly messily. You tend to have to baby them quite a bit. I mean, they clip fine, but sometimes the clipper won't go all the way through the coating. It's not like a natural finish on the cardboard. It's a coating of some kind. And sometimes the coating will hang up in your clipper, is something I noticed. So that has been a brief look at the brand new release. This just showed up and my buddy called me right away. Hey, you want to unbox this? It looks cool. The Dogs of War. Again, number 2 in the C3 series. Looks fairly interesting if you're into this particular topic. At this scale, battalion scale, NATO versus Warsaw Pact, which is not sure anybody else is doing that right now. So this is worth a look if you are interested in this topic. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Leave me any questions in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support Ardwulf's Lair, there are links to the Patreon and the merch store in the video description, so check those out. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy wargaming.